Hi, it's Paul Vincenti, your trainer and your coach, here to talk to you today about objection handling. Now, what is an objection? If you're in customer care and not in sales, you could equate this to a complaint. Well, what is a complaint or an objection? Is it necessarily a refusal or a negative? Well, in a sense it is a negative, but if you only see it as something negative or an impediment to a solution, then basically it becomes that, an impediment. Very often, if you aren't aware what you're doing, you end up arguing with people who object. And it's very easy to get involved in an argument with people who are objecting. So here's a quick technique to avoid getting into arguments. Well, first of all, when somebody objects, acknowledge. What I mean by acknowledge is basically show them verbally and physically, that is non-verbally, through your facial expressions also, that you understand and you hear them and that you're not threatened or taken aback by their objection. If you do this correctly, most people at least will not see what they normally see in people when they object, and that is a defensive posture. Now, I also mentioned that you need to use language which is positive. Avoid therefore using language such as but, and use instead positive affirmations including the words, "Oh, I see," and "what I can do for you is." In other words, they object and you go, "Look, I can hear you, I understand you, and I'd like to know more about it." That's the second part of objection handling. Actually making it more specific, asking them to put into more detail what their objection really is about and what it contains, the content, the intent behind what they're objecting about. You at this point, as they're objecting and making it more specific, are listening, and you're making active listening movements, that is nodding your head, showing you're listening, making and ah sounds, basically making verbal sounds to show that you're interested, you've remained interested, and you do want to help them. If people notice you doing this, they are far more likely, when they see you listening in this way, to calm down. In fact, the worst thing you could ever do is to get into an argument by showing them you're not listening, by interrupting them, for example. Now, once they've exhausted all they've had to say and you've listened, that's the time to turn around and say, "Look, I think I've understood you, but just to make sure, can I summarize back to you what I think I've heard you say?" You may choose words just like these or something similar to this, but the most important thing that you do is that you repeat back to the person objecting or complaining, that for that matter, exactly what you think they said. Now, I wouldn't verbatim repeat back to them exactly what they said word for word, but I would summarize it and contextualize it. So make a brief summary of what you think you've understood they've said and objected or complained about. Once you've done this, and they should be in a position to either agree with you or disagree with you. In other words, they'll turn around and say, "Well, that's right, yes, it's exactly what I had in mind, that's exactly what I was worried about, and you've hit the nail on the head." Or they could turn around and say, "Well, yes, but there's something you've left out." So when you summarize, what you've done is you've done two things. First of all, you've shown the person that you've listened to them and taken their objection or complaint seriously. And secondly, you've given them the opportunity to butt in or to correct you if in fact you haven't quite understood them correctly. When you've done this a couple of times and you're sure that you've understood and they know that you've understood, you can then suggest an option or a solution to either their complaint or their objection. In most cases, if you follow this technique, people are already calmed down, they're ready to take a positive suggestion from you, and if you don't have an answer or a solution to their problem, the best you can do at least is to say that you don't and to promise to get back to them with one as soon as possible. I hope you're enjoying this series. Use and practice these techniques and get better at becoming a fantastic salesperson or customer care representative. Thanks a lot.